The sirens came before the shouting. Blue lights spilled across my porch like slow lightning. Flickering over the old flag my father folded with his own hands before giving it to me. I was sitting there, coffee cooling beside me, boots still dusty from the morning's work, when the first cruiser stopped at the end of my driveway. A second one slid in behind it like a chess piece. I hadn't done anything wrong. I'd simply parked my truck across my own driveway and was angled toward the street. Tailgate down, lumber stacked in the bed for a fence repair. But in this neighborhood, a woman like Karen doesn't need the law on her side. To call the law on you, let me back up a bit. My father always said a driveway isn't just concrete, it's a threshold. A line between what the world can take and what your family has earned. I take pride in mine. I keep it swept, sealed, and clean. Last fall, I spent an entire weekend resealing that slab myself. Knees sore, hands blistered, my wife humming through the kitchen window while I worked. But lately, our HO ailed by Karen had been finding problems that didn't exist. Letters about uneven shrub heights, notes about my flagpole being out of regulation, even a warning when my grandkids drew chalk art on the sidewalk. Petty things. Small cuts. And a man can bleed from paper too. That morning, I blocked the driveway only for a few hours so we could set new fence posts. The old fence had rotted through. My neighbor's black lab kept wandering in. My truck was a simple, safe, barrier visible, sturdy, temporary. I even left a note on the windshield for delivery drivers with my number in bold. I figured that was considerate enough. At 10:07 a.m., my phone buzzed, unknown number. I let it ring out. At 10:10, I heard the crunch of heels on gravel. And then that voice, sharp, cheerful, and fake. "You're obstructing common access," Karen said. "You've blocked the street. Emergency vehicles can't pass." I looked up and down the lane. There was room for a fire engine to dance a waltz around my Chevy. "This is my driveway, Karen," I said, calm as dawn on still water. "We're setting posts. It'll be clear by noon." She smiled, tight, satisfied. "We'll see about that." And the second she turned, I knew. She was calling the police not because she had a case, but because she loved the show. Some people have drama wired into their bones. She's one of them. I went back to work. The measuring tape pulled straight and true, but my patience didn't. It wasn't about inconvenience, it was about disrespect. Down the hall of our home hangs my father's photo in his dress blues. He taught me to stand without bowing to nonsense, to be firm, never cruel. I took a slow breath and kept working. When the first cruiser rolled up, I already knew who sent them. The officer stepped out young, polite, already tired. "Morning, sir. We got a call." Another officer joined him, hand resting casually on his belt, eyes scanning the scene. I nodded toward the truck. "My driveway. Temporary. Here's what's happening." Showed them the posts, the permits, and even the HOA bylaws, highlighted and printed. After all, this wasn't my first dance with Karen. They exchanged a look. The younger one eased a bit. "Okay, seems fine. We'll just need to document it." And that's when the performance began. Karen marched out from her porch, like she'd been waiting backstage for her cue phone out, camera rolling. "This man is blocking emergency access," she declared. "He's been hostile. He threatened me." That last part was effortless, smooth. My wife stepped out next, apron still tied, eyes clear as morning glass. "Officer, he's been outside since 8. The only thing he's threatened is that fence," she said, with a half smile, the kind that says, "I've got the facts, and I'm not afraid to use them." Karen rolled her eyes. She's part of the problem. They think the rules don't apply to them. Something tightened in me, not anger, but that old feeling you get when you realize someone isn't chasing truth, only victory. I handed over my ID. The older officer paused on my name, looked up. "You served?" I gave a small nod. "Still do, in a way."
Finally.
I never lead with it. You don't pull rank in neighborly matters. You bring respect. But sometimes rank can steady turbulent waters, and I could tell this creek was about to flood. "Sir," the older one said quietly, "we'll handle this." Karen bristled. "Handle it? He's obstructing. That truck should be towed." "Ma'am," the younger officer said, patient but firm, "towing from a private driveway requires the owner's consent. He's within his rights." She whipped out her packet of HOA bylaws like it was a holy text. "Not according to this." They skimmed it, then handed it back. "Ma'am, bylaws don't override state law or property rights." Yeah. The older one said gently. Karen turned her phone toward me, triumphant. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" I looked into that lens and saw exactly what she wanted. A villain. But instead of talking to her, I talked to the world she hoped would see that video. "I'm on my land," I said. "Fixing a fence so your dog doesn't scare my grandkids. I've pulled permits, parked safely, followed every rule that matters. But I won't be bullied on my own driveway." Something changed in the air. Maybe it was the way the officers straightened. Maybe it was my wife's quiet presence on the porch. Or maybe it was the wind catching my father's flag snapping once, sharp and proud, like a gavel. Karen's voice wavered. "You think you're special?" "No," I said. "I think I'm responsible for my family, my home, and the example I set." Then I added quietly, "And yes, I've spent a career making decisions that matter. The kind you don't post online. The kind you live with. I'm asking you to step back from this one." The older officer cleared his throat. "Ma'am, there's no violation here. We're advising you to let him continue. If you interfere again, we'll document it." Karen's lips tightened. "This isn't the image our community wants. My father used to say," I told her. "The only image that matters is the one in your bathroom mirror. If that one's decent, the neighborhood will be fine." It didn't end cleanly. It never does with people like her. She threw a few more threats, muttered something about an emergency HOA meeting, and stomped off. When the officers left, they both waved to my wife and wished us a good day. I moved my truck 1 foot to the left just out of courtesy. Not because I had to, but because sometimes the higher road is the quieter one. We finished setting the posts by noon. The new fence stood straight as a soldier, gleaming in the sun. My neighbor wandered over with lemonade, embarrassed. "She scares everyone," he admitted. "But you handled it well," I chuckled. "Lost my temper once in my 20s. Didn't like the man I met. Never saw him again," he laughed. "Teach me that someday." At 3:17 p.m., I got an email from the HOA formal letterhead, cold tone. An invitation to a compliance meeting. I replied calmly, attaching the permits, the state code, and a photo of the officer smiling beside my truck. Then I signed off with a line my father would have approved of: "I will always be a good neighbor, but I will never surrender my rights." That evening, my wife and I sat on the porch again. The air smelled of cedar and cooling asphalt. The lake down the road small, man-made. But ours caught the last light of the day like a promise. I thought about legacy. Not the kind measured in money or square footage. The kind measured in how your kids remember you. Did Dad stand up when it counted? Did he keep his voice calm when others yelled? Did he guard the threshold? Those are the questions that matter. My phone buzzed again this time, not an unknown number. It was the older officer. "Just checking in," he said. "Everything calm?" "Calm enough," I told him. He hesitated. "For what it's worth, my dad kept a flag like that too. We didn't need more words." I understood. The next morning, the chalk drawings were back on the sidewalk. Bright, crooked, beautiful. A big American flag with stars shaped like sugar cookies. I didn't correct a thing. I just smiled, feeling that old weight in my chest finally lift. The world gets loud sometimes, but real justice doesn't always sound like sirens. Sometimes it's just laughter and chalk on concrete. So that's how the police ended up at my driveway and why I blocked it in the first place. It wasn't about a truck. It was about a promise to my father, to my wife, to the man I look for in the mirror every morning. Respect goes both ways. Pride can be quiet. And heritage isn't something you wave, it's something you carry with grace. In the end, the lake was calm again. And for the first time in a while, So was I sometimes standing up for what's right? Just means standing still on your own driveway and letting the noise roll past like weather. Have you ever faced an HOA like this? Share your story in the comments. I read every one. And if you believe some fights are worth having, hit subscribe. And let's stand up together.